Thank you, Dale. I call to order the Town Council regular session. Time is 7:32, and the date is Monday, April 22nd. Welcome, and if we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we do our roll call, I just want to reflect and have a moment of silence for the victims and their families of the Boston Marathon tragedy. Thank you. Dale, the roll call, please.
Council President Whaley.
Present.
Council Vice President McAtee. Here. Councilman Donnelly.
Here.
Councilwoman Healy.
Here.
Councilman O'Neill.
Here.
All members present.
And just to inform the public, we started our session at 6:30, and we had 2 interviews for our South Kingstown Library Board. All right, we have the approval of the minutes of previous meetings. We have the work session of April 8th, 2013.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We also have the regular session of April 8th, April 9th, and April 10th.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And the closed executive session of April 8th, 2013.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Would any council person like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Seeing none, then I move approval of tonight's consent agenda.
I second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, which brings us to licenses. This is a resolution granting a victualling license to Fireside Froyo, 50 South County Commons Way, Wakefield, Rhode Island, subject to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, application by Heather Sheehan, 11 Elwood Court, Wakefield, Rhode Island, and Mark Cabana, 138 Homecrest Avenue, North Smithfield, Rhode Island, and this is a new application. And do we have Heather or Mark with us tonight? Welcome. If you could come to the microphone, tell us a little bit about your endeavor. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Heather Sheehan, and I am looking to open a frozen yogurt, self-serve frozen yogurt business in South County Commons. I do want to mention that the address there is wrong. It is 36 South County Commons Way, not 50.
Thank you.
But it will be self-serve frozen yogurt. We hope to add smoothies, frozen yogurt cakes, and possibly gourmet hot chocolate in the future. And we're hoping to open June 1st.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Do we have questions here at the table for Heather?
Whereabouts in the Commons is it located?
It was the old Lickety Splits. Yeah.
Oh.
Other questions for Heather?
Heather, have you had any other businesses like this?
No, this is the first.
Oh, good for you.
Thank you, yeah.
And
you the-
what are your hours of operation? Do you know what time you plan on opening?
Yep, right now we're thinking about 11 o'clock to open, and we're going to close 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock on weekends and during peak hours in the summer.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you the Heather Sheehan who teaches at South Kingstown High School?
I do.
Daughter of Kevin Sheehan?
I am. I am, yes.
Several of us recently saw Kevin at the Broad Rock Coyote race.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's doing well.
This is a wonderful endeavor for you.
Thank you, I'm excited.
Yeah, love it.
Other questions here at the table?
I move approval of new license A.
Second.
Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
We'll be up there.
Thank you.
Which brings us to our public hearings. I'd like to open the public hearing relative to an application for a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956 as amended as follows. The Class B victular liquor license, application for a Class B victular liquor license by Roba Rustico, Limited Liability Corporation doing business as Pizzeria Mezzo, 32 Old Tower Hill Road, Wakefield, Rhode Island, by John Russo, member of the bar area, counter area, and dining area at tables, and is further defined in a site plan on file in the town clerk's office. Said license is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, and payment of any municipal taxes and user fees in arrears to the town, and correction of any fire code violations. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and see if Steve has anything. Or Dale?
We have a communication dated April 18th from Keith Kyle. He is the attorney for Costanza Realty LLC, and they are voicing an objection to this application.
Thank you. Okay. And if we could have John come forward and present.
evening. Good evening.
Good evening. So if you could tell us a little bit about what your plans are?
Just pretty much to have a, I'm not looking to have a bar room. I'm just looking to have a cordial evening after dinner, merely for Sambuca and limoncello coming into the summer. I already have the beer and wine, as you know. I'm not increasing the footprint of the establishment. I'm not looking to add any seats. We don't sell beer by the pitcher. This is simply just merely to have a cordials at the end of dinner, as opposed to just beer and wine. I didn't think it was going to be this involved. But that's all I wanted to do. Nothing's changed as far as my original plans and going forward, other than the fact that people do ask me for a brandy or cognac or something to that effect. And I thought, I never really wanted to do it in the first place, but I was encouraged by a lot of my patrons. I don't think it's going to change anything in terms of the traffic and the cars and the people. I've got a small place, and I don't think it's going to change. So if it's within my rights to be able to have one, I'd like to have one if it's the board does their due diligence in procuring that for me.
Okay. Any questions here at the table for John? Carol?
John, are you going to increase your hours of operation at all?
Absolutely not.
So you're just asking that we add a full liquor license. You already have a beer and wine. You've had that for how long now?
About 10 months.
And that's been working out well.
Terrific. Yeah.
So all you want is the full liquor license so people can get what they want to drink, and you don't expect it to increase patronage necessarily, but satisfy your customers
I
that are
only
there.
have what I have for seating. It's not going to do any. I don't think it's going to increase anymore. I don't see why it would.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions here at the table? Meg?
I actually had the opportunity, because I have not been there, to go today. Shame on me, because I have not been there, but
Thank you.
you were closed, but I had the opportunity to meet with you today. And it's a relatively small establishment, so I really don't see how procuring a full liquor license is going to inhibit a lot of parking. It's not like a big bar, it's not like music, it's very small. And if somebody wants to go and have a pizza or have, a cocktail or whatever, I
Well, what it came down to basically is It's that glass of wine, that other glass of wine versus a Zambuca with your espresso. Basically what it comes down to. I'm not trying to build a barroom.
You don't have much room for a bar. It's very small, so it's definitely not a bar area there whatsoever.
Right.
It's a small-scale restaurant, so.
Exactly, thank you. And I thought that it would be, I get asked by a lot of my patrons to have, especially coming into the summer. I remember last summer, it was really hot. In fact, we're going to need to put a little larger air conditioner. But, you know, summertime, as we know how it gets down here, you know, at the end of a meal, it's nice to have limoncello. If there was just a cordials license in the town available, like they do have in Boston, that would be fine with me as well. But unfortunately, you don't have a cordials license that would, you know, make it for Sambuca, limoncello, those kinds of things. Campari, nice cool summer drinks with Campari and Prosecco. I can give the Prosecco, but I can't put the Campari in. So give me some Campari.
Okay, any other questions from the town council before I open it to questions from the public? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the microphone to questions from the public. If anyone would like to object, please come to the microphone.
Keith Kyle for Costanza Realty LLC. I'll be very brief. I did submit a memo with some exhibits. I gave the originals to the clerk, so I would like that to be marked as a full exhibit in this hearing if that's possible. I have an extra copy if we need one. Okay.
Yes.
We all received it. Thank you.
Thanks. Very briefly, my client is opposed to the expansion of this liquor license from a limited to a full. And in deciding whether to grant or deny these applications, I think it's incumbent upon the town council to view these in light of the rules and regulations that have been promulgated by the town with respect to this issue. And there are roughly 13 bases upon which you can deny or grant an application, as the case may be. As far as my client is concerned, the focus is very narrowly construed here, and it concerns whether or not the applicant in this case is in, one, compliance with all town ordinances, which I'll suggest to you in a moment they are not, the impact on traffic, parking, and there's sort of a catch-all clause, which is paragraph M, which is other health and safety factors. If you had the opportunity to read my memo, I think you can see that the lot has two issues. The applicant's property, when I realize he's a lessee of this property, but the property itself, by virtue of the dimensional area, the town ordinance only allows for 20 parking spaces. And I think that this council can take this into consideration. I realize these issues, the substantive resolution of them may be before a zoning board, but the town council needs to look at this because that's what your rules and regulations suggest. So because there's only a 7,000 square foot lot, our zoning code states that by dividing that by 350, which is a calculation in section 711, there are only 20 spots that are dimensionally allowed on that piece of property. And as you are all aware, on that particular property, there are 3 separate businesses. We have Estia, which according to the town records is a 30-seat restaurant and therefore needs 10 parking spots. Go Pasta is a retail establishment, and under the code, because of its square footage, needs roughly 4 parking spots, so that's 14 spots. The applicant, in his application, suggests he has 45 seats. In portions of the application, there's reference to 50 seats. I'm not quite sure how many seats there are, but let's just suggest it's 45 for sake of argument. That would mean he would need a minimum of 15 parking spots. So the 3 businesses collectively, in order to comply with the zoning ordinance, need 29 parking spaces. even on the diagram submitted by the applicant, there's only 24 spaces. And I went back and read the minutes from the zoning hearing when he applied for a special use permit to get this license in the first instance. And what was represented to the zoning board in the minutes was that there were 27 parking spots, and that's just simply not the case. And that's reflected in my packet of exhibits. So that's the first primary issue that we have with it. The second issue is that again, because of its dimensional layout, it's required to have ADA compliant accessible parking spaces. And if you've been over there, you will see that at least on, it would be the easterly row of spots along where Estia is, there is purportedly one handicap accessible spot with a utility pole directly in the entrance. So I would suggest to you, and for certain, if you read the building code, which I got from your building inspector, that spot does not even come close to being accessible. And I would suggest to you, the reason I'm bringing this up is because part of what you need to consider is, are there any safety hazards, health, welfare, and safety issues at stake here? That one spot doesn't even come close. On the Old Tower Hill Road area, there is a sign posted on the wall that says accessible parking. And I have some photographs that I'd like to also mark if I could on this. Two depicting the spot along where Estia is, and one depicting the spot on Old Tower Hill Road. Under the building code, no matter how many ADA compliant spaces you need, you must have at least one van accessible spot. And that's very important because that requires 96 inches of space from which a person can alight from a van. And that does not even exist on this property at all. So again, and the reason I'm pointing this out is it's just to show the council that there is not compliance with the zoning ordinance. The last issue, last two things I'd like to mention very briefly is that also in the minutes from the zoning board, and I think even here when the first application was before you, there was questioning of the applicant concerning, well, where do his employees park? And what's notable about that is that he said at the time he had 12 employees. And my client, and her affidavit is also enclosed in there, has seen the employees parking on her property, has seen customers parking on her property, and this is a real point of irritation between her and the other property owner, because these people who do park on her property are walking across what is also her property, also utilized by many people as a cut-through from Old Tower Hill Road through to the complex in the back and to access the property. So she is concerned about having people park on her lot and crossing across this right-of-way. One of the statistical documents that I submitted with you is that on Old Tower Hill Road, I think back in, I don't have it right in front of me, I think in 2009, there's like 14,000 cars, on average daily estimate of cars driving down Old Tower Hill Road past that entrance to the property. So there is some concern with respect to this. The last issue, which is basically came up as a result of this application and us having to take a look at the property, is that we have had a surveyor take a look at the property line, and I have him here to testify. I don't know if it's important for you to have him testify. He's only, because of the time constraints involved in this, been able to do a preliminary look-see at this based on previous surveys and the like, but from the point of the utility pole in front of Estia going back. So that's 8 parking spots. About 3 or 4 feet of all of those parking spots is on my client's property. Now, they've painted their lines onto her property. So that is severely limiting, really, the space that they're claiming they really have. And so that's an issue that we have. So with that, we're asking that the application be denied as it is put before this council.
Thank you. Any questions here at the table for Mr. Kyle?
Yes, how would that, they currently have a limited liquor license. How would a full liquor license really impact that spot compared to what it is now?
Well, I'm not so sure that it necessarily will change anything, but what I'm suggesting to you is that the last time that this was before you, I think that there was some not, and I'm going to say this gingerly, completely truthful information put before the zoning board or this council with respect to the number of parking spaces. In the minutes, there was a so-called revised plan submitted suggesting there were 27 parking spaces. I've been out there a million times and can't count that. The document that he submitted with the current application only shows 24. Now, what happened within, I would say, a matter of weeks of this council granting that liquor license, Job Lot went out and repainted all of the lines down their entire length of their property and put up signs that said no parking, Job Lot only, and those are there for everyone to see. So I don't know, to answer your question, it's probably not going to make much of a change. However, these are now being brought to light, that there's clear violations of the zoning ordinance. And I think the zoning ordinance is, the reason those numbers exist is that someone in their wisdom has determined that those numbers have something to do with the health, welfare, and safety of the inhabitants of South Kingstown, and that's why they exist.
Again, looking at the liquor license application, but the motion here, it says they're predicated on they have to comply with all town ordinance regulations.
Correct.
So it won't go into effect unless they do comply with all these, with the ordinances that are in place. So it probably goes back to it being a zoning issue.
Well, I think that this council can deny this application until they comply with the zoning ordinance, because if you grant the license as it's put before you, there are violations of the ordinance. Now, you clearly have absolute discretion. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no question about that. That's what your town ordinance says. But I'm asking you to exercise your discretion and deny the application. And I guess I'd have to go on to suggest that if you do grant it, it was an abuse of your discretion, given these things that I've pointed out to you.
I just have a question. What makes a difference based on what they're doing today in terms of a beer and wine or whatever license they have to going further? I actually was there today, and I did see there was 3 signs put up by Job Lot in terms of parking. I can't say that there's ample parking. That's not for me to judge. I think it is a zoning issue. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that point. But how much of a difference or an impact do you think it will make to change their license based on what they have today versus what they could have next week?
I think that's a great question, and my answer is I really couldn't speculate on that other than to say that they now have a limited license beer and wine. They're asking to expand that license for other liquor. Now, I love Campari, and I would think it would be great to have a glass of Campari, but I'm sure it's going to extend beyond that to martinis and everything else. And whether you want to call it a bar, it's essentially becoming a bar. So I think there's, to be realistic, I think it would be unimaginable to say there's not going to be an expansion of the use, because that's the intention behind this.
I live in town, I see that parking lot, and I look at even Clark Farm and where Indian Run is, and that's probably another moot point. People drive through there all the time. There's a lot more traffic coming through there, even at this time of the year going forward. I don't know if I'm totally convinced. Yes, do I agree that they have to have adequate parking? I'm on your side. It's a zoning issue. But there's a lot of other people who park there as well. So I don't know how to address that with you.
Well,
but-
I mean, you brought up another point. Since you mentioned earlier that you were over there today,
I was.
just about every car that pulls in there pulls in forward, and when they back out, they're backing out onto that right-of-way where cars are coming down Old Tower Hill Road, turning right, going into the bank. Honestly, if you stand out there for 20 minutes in the middle of the day, you will witness many near accidents, collisions, people walking across. It's just the nature of it.
Billy, I
and-
understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
Carol?
I think, Keith, by what the discussion that was just held, that you're admitting that the increase of the liquor license, expansion of the liquor license, using your words, which I don't necessarily agree that that's what you would call this, would not necessarily increase any additional patrons or I'm not hearing you say that it will increase traffic, but let me continue on here. You're talking about a heavily congested area. You're talking about difficult means of egress and ingress. Now, I think your client, correct me if I'm wrong, owns the Wakefield Liquor Store, does she not? Now, many of her own patrons are in and out that same area, causing the same traffic congestion. So, I mean, if we want to talk about congestion, it's all coming from the same area, not necessarily from this man's small business. And they're all alcohol. She's selling alcohol also. So I think many of your issues are colliding with your client's own use. The other thing, I think, is why can't these two parties work this out? We're talking about a nominal amount of parking spaces. We all know your client has an inordinate amount of parking spaces. Why can't they work something out, a rental agreement? That would be for the best interest of the town, of the businesses, of the community, of the safety issues, of the traffic flow issues. It would settle everything.
Well, I'll address those two questions. One, I think I answered the question by saying it would be speculation for me to suggest that it's going to increase or not. I don't know. I believe that it will increase. But to answer your other question, the lot that you're referring to, which is owned by a corporation, is leased to the bank. So the bank has to have all of those parking spots for their patrons. So it's not, I don't think it's as simple as why can't they agree? It's leased, she has leased that property to another entity, even though she owns all of it. So I don't think it's as simple as that. I hear what you're saying, and
I think she could approach the bank and try and have a discussion on this. I mean, we're really talking about a matter of like 5 parking spaces. That's what your memo says.
Well,
So I don't understand what the big to-do is.
I've only been a member
we
of the
could work
bar
it
for
out.
25 years. I think whatever's going on here has preceded me by many years, so I don't fully understand all of it, but I think my argument is for my client that asking you to deny the application based on their failure to comply with the zoning ordinance. And that's as simple, that's her right to assert that, and that's what we're doing.
Jim, did you have a question?
I was just, I thought Carol was absolutely correct on all of her comments there. I mean, what would we do here if someone drove in that right away from Tower Hill Road, needed some cash, so they went to Bank of America, ATM machine, or went to the counter, bought a bottle of wine next door, drove the car, still staying on that property, came over to get their evening meal from Go Pasta? Would you then tow them? Is that how ridiculous this is becoming? Would you tow them? That's a question
Well,
to
you're
you.
asking the wrong person, sir. I don't know, but it would be her prerogative to certainly do that as the owner of the property.
And that's perfectly fine, but as long as they banked there and they bought their wine or liquor there, that's incredible. That's incredible thinking. And I also, I hope I didn't hear you correctly on this, but did you say, and I thought I'm quoting you here, that this, if we grant this license, that this is tantamount to this becoming a bar? Did I hear you correctly on that?
Well, I think that's what will occur.
Well, I couldn't disagree more with you.
Well, he's going to
You
have a
can't
full...
speculate. You can't say something
He's going to have
like
a
that.
full liquor license. It's a bar.
Oh,
You
please.
call it whatever it is. I believe that's what it is.
Other comments from the public?
Good evening, Andrew Bilodeau on behalf of the applicant, Rober Estico. Council members, I'd just like to remark on one issue, and I will keep it short, that Attorney Kyle had indicated that that property is leased to Bank of America. And I haven't seen the lease, but if they have full control over that lot and they have a leasehold interest, the proper standing, I think, who should be up here to object to this would be Bank of America. And they're not present this evening. Secondly, there's an issue of law here, not proper before the council, but it's with respect to a prescriptive easement. Attorney Kyle has admitted that there are lines painted on his client's property. My client's employees park on his client's lot, and it's happened in excess of 10 years. And that will be something that will be dealt with in the courts. I don't think it's proper before the council tonight.
Questions here at the table for Mr. Bilodeau?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Bobby?
Well, as usual, I never know what I'm going to say when I get up here, you know that.
You're back from Vermont.
You know,
It's good
I'm
to
just,
see you.
I'm just an old dyslexic, that's all, doesn't have a good memory. Anyway, but I haven't been here in a while, and I was going to say in open forum that I'm glad to be back. I was able to stay awake long enough to get here today. That's what's happened the last few Mondays, I just couldn't make it. I like coming, you know that. And I like coming because of this. Listening to this stuff that goes on here. It doesn't all, you know, people say it's boring, but to me this wasn't a boring session so far. And I got to know a little bit more now that I know kind of, I got in my head a little bit better where this is. And as usual, Carol hit the nail on the head. I can't say I thought she had ahead of time this time, but they are the thoughts that I think should be thought of. I just hope you'll grant this minimal request and help someone stay in business in the town and help him make a little bit more maybe. So what? He needs to make a little bit more. Anybody in business today is, and granted, restaurants seem to be doing very well. Some of them are doing very, very well. But at the same time, it's one of the toughest businesses there is. And I've been to the Narragansett meeting for the last at least 4 weeks in a row, I think. And last week they approved 2 wine and beer licenses for a couple of local establishments there. And they had a big to-do over Mr. Durkin's, I wasn't going to say this, but it came out now. See what I mean? I never know what I'm going to say. I can't help myself. You know, he's building a boutique hotel, you might call it a boutique hotel, a very exclusive, a hotel, as I said at the meeting there, I would never be able to go to and spend any time there. But he, obviously, if you got a 36 table restaurant in a hotel, you have to have a liquor license. I mean, what are you going to do? You think people will come in here with millions of dollars and they're not going to be able to order a drink? Let's get serious now. Let's have a little common sense. And let's have, as you were just saying, Mr. O'Neill, let's have a little bit of compassion for the people that live in the town and are trying to make a living. That's my point.
Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the table one more time before we close the public hearing. And after that time, there'll be no comments accepted. So any further comments here at the table? Last call. For comments.
I'll have a Campari.
Paul wants a Campari.
Have to have a little bit of humor doing this job. Okay, seeing there are no further comments, can I have a motion to close the public
I
hearing?
move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to hold off on any motions, and we're going to open the second public hearing, which is a public hearing for public discussion relative to the need for additional liquor licenses within the community. And that is referenced, I believe, new business item 13A. B.
B.
Okay, just B. So questions here, or any presentations, Steve, comments?
The second public hearing that's scheduled this evening is a requirement of the Town Council's Rules of Conduct for review of new liquor license requests, and it provides an opportunity for just a general discussion from those members of the public that would have concerns with the need for expansion of the number of licenses or the need to reduce the number of licenses in any of the classes. So this provides an opportunity for the public to provide comments not to a specific license, but to the number of licenses that are available within the community. Under new business exhibit, new business item A provides a resolution which currently holds the number of license maximums for each of the different classes of licenses that are available within the community. Were the council to agree to expand or agree to approve the license that's been before them this evening, there would be a necessity for adjustment on this maximum number of licenses, either with increasing decreasing the number of limited licenses by one, which would then allow the full privilege license under the B Vitula. One other point that I would make during this hearing is that at the current time, the maximum number of licenses available for B Vitula is 25. There are currently only 24 that have been issued. Therefore, were the council to provide approval for Pizzeria Mezzo to obtain a full privilege license, there would not be a need to expand the number of B Vitulas, since there is one available within that class. I would, however, suggest if that action were to occur, that the council consider reducing the number of B limited licenses from 4 to 3. Obviously, if the council takes no action and does not approve the newly requested license that was heard in hearing this evening, there still would be a recommendation to reduce the B Vitula license from 25 to 24. So if there's members of the public that would like to speak on the issue of liquor licenses that have been issued or could be issued within the town, now would be the time for them to come forward.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Public hearing is closed, which we should now go back to 7A,
7A.
a motion.
I move that we approve the application for,
All right. Dale has a question? Okay. Sorry.
I move that we approve the application for a Class B victular license, liquor license by Roba Rustico LLC, DBA Pizzeria Mezzo, by John Russo. Said license is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, and the correction of any fire code violation.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Michael?
Oh, yeah, I just want to speak to some of the issues that were brought up in terms of your deliberations here on deciding whether to approve this motion or not. With regard to the right-of-way that was mentioned by both attorneys, I absolutely agree that that is between the various property owners. The council really has no jurisdiction over that. It's not a town right-of-way. It's something that those property owners either need to work out amongst themselves, or if they can't work it out, it'll wind up in Superior Court. But that's certainly nothing that you will be dealing with. You also heard argument from Attorney Kyle with regard to two zoning-related issues, one involving the alleged lack of ADA compliant parking spaces on the property, and the other, of course, the argument that under the zoning ordinance, there is not enough spaces for all the businesses. Well, both of those are enforcement issues, so to speak. In other words, the building official would need to go out there and make a determination as to whether or not there is a problem. But in any event, the building official will be dealing not with the applicant that's before you this evening for a liquor license. The building official would actually be dealing with the property owner upon which all of these various tenants reside. And that's where those issues will be addressed. And if in fact there are violations, as alleged by Mr. Kyle, the building official will follow up with them, will do his inspections, will issue notice of a violation if necessary against the property owner, and then it'll be up to the property owner to correct those violations, either by bringing the property into compliance or seeking some type of variance from the zoning board, etc. There are all kinds of ways to address that, but that will be between the town acting on any zoning violations. It will be with that property owner, not with this applicant. So I just want to, I think you understand all that, but I just wanted to get that before you in making your deliberations.
Right, so the zoning issues will be dealt with in a different forum.
In my opinion, yes, they've been brought to your attention in the context of this hearing for the liquor license. You do have the zoning board's decision approving the special use permit. They made their determination, so this is all properly before you with the applicant. If in fact there are violations out there, they should in fact be investigated and they should be pursued, but it will be a different forum.
Thank you. So for public hearing A, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Which brings us to the motion for the second public hearing. B?
Go to 13A, I think.
13A. 13A is new business. It's a resolution affirming or amending the town's liquor license rules and regulations, Section 1. The number of licenses for each class shall be authorized as indicated below. So could we have a motion, please?
I move that we maintain the number of Class B victular licenses at 25, and that we reduce the Class B limited license from 4 to 3.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Communication B. This is a resolution proposed for adoption by Council Vice President McEntee and Councilman Donnelly in support of marriage equality legislation, General Assembly Bills, Senate 0038 and House 5015, Sub A. Acts relating to domestic relations, persons eligible to marry is received, placed on file, and the Town Council further directs. And I'm going to turn it over to Council Vice President Carol Hagan McEntee.
I see some familiar faces out here, and I think that's a very good thing. Anyway, I'd just like to read the resolution, and then we'll open it up to all of you, because I think you all have a lot more to say about this. Anyway, this is a resolution in support, as Ella said, of Senate Bill 2013 S0038 and House Bill 2013 H5015, relating to domestic relations, persons eligible to marry. Whereas the charter establishing the state of Rhode Island promises to secure her residents in the free exercise and enjoyment of all civil and religious rights, and whereas we believe that a just and democratic society guarantees to all its citizens certain civil rights set out in the United States Constitution, and civil marriage is one of these fundamental rights. And whereas each and every adult in Rhode Island, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, gender, identity, or sexual orientation, deserves the opportunity to attain the legal protections, rights, and responsibilities gained through civil marriage. And whereas limiting gay and lesbian couples to civil unions while allowing heterosexual couples the institution of marriage creates a separate but equal discriminatory environment. And whereas the South Kingstown Town Council desires to adopt the statement of the Human Rights Campaign, together we will show the nation that we believe all Americans deserve to be treated fairly and equally under the law, no matter who they love. And whereas marriage provides couples with the tools and security to build a life together, to care for each other, to protect their families, and to provide what every child needs and deserves, namely the unique recognition that only marriage can impart. And whereas the South Kingstown Town Council recognizes the diversity of its constituents and strongly supports the equal treatment of same-sex couples by supporting their right to enter into the lawful institution of marriage. Whereas the South Kingstown Town Council supports the passage of marriage equality legislation H5015 sub A and S0038. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Kingstown Town Council hereby requests that the town clerk send a copy of this resolution to the governor of the state of Rhode Island, the lieutenant governor of the state of Rhode Island, the president of the Rhode Island Senate, the Speaker of the Rhode Island House of Representatives, and the senators and representatives from the town of South Kingstown. I would also like to add that this letter be sent forthwith by tomorrow morning to the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Michael McCaffrey, and all senators on that committee, being that this matter will be heard tomorrow at approximately 3 o'clock.
Thank you. At this time, we have many people, I'm sure, who would like to speak on this communication item. So at this time, I'm going to open the microphone. Please come forward and welcome.
Thank you very much, and I applaud this council for its courageous action. I'm really proud of you, and thanks very much for sponsoring it. I'm a naturalized American
If we could
citizen.
just
My name
have
is
your-
Anthony DeLuca,
Thank you, Anthony.
35 Sunset Avenue, Saunderstown, Rhode Island. I am a naturalized American citizen. I'm a Catholic for marriage equality, former state representative, former councilman, council president, teacher, coach, but most importantly, a father to voice my unwavering support for the marriage equality bill before the Rhode Island Senate Judiciary Committee, while respectfully opposing the proposal to put this issue to a voter referendum. Our legislators are elected to lead and to fulfill the awesome responsibility entrusted to them by their constituents. Our history is replete with courageous legislative role models who cast difficult votes on the most critical civil and human rights issue of the day. I strongly believe we will receive no less profound consideration and affirmation from the majority of our current General Assembly members. No human being's rights should be equated to a bond referendum vote or to any other legislatively divined public opinion sentiment of the moment. My wife Sylvia and I, who recently celebrated our 53rd wedding anniversary, support the marriage equality bill completely. My beautiful daughter Louisa will soon be celebrating her 3rd anniversary to our wonderful daughter-in-law Brenda. This event should be a cause for celebration, but sadly, their family is not recognized here in this state, which they both call home. Our recently passed civil union legislation demeans the value of such loving relationships, giving a different status to my daughter's relationship than the same partnership her mother and I lovingly share. Imagine how deeply painful such denial is to gay and lesbian people, how painful it is to mothers like Sylvia, who conceived, gave birth to, and nurtured their children with loving care. Imagine how I, as a loving husband and father, feel realizing that some would find it difficult not to exalt equally in the creation of every human life. I want my daughter to be able to get married in our state and experience the same security and love and commitment that my wife and I have had these past 53 years. Like any father, I'd like to walk my little girl down the aisle in the state I have called home and served nearly all my life. It was many years ago that as Louisa's father, I hugged her reassuringly when she expressed hope that I would still love her after she had so openly declared her orientation. As it is then, and as it shall forever be, my love for Louisa is unconditional. I urge the state of Rhode Island to pass marriage equality both for me and Sylvia, and most importantly, for Louisa and Brenda, and for all other loving families like ours throughout the state. Finally, by voting in favor of this council resolution, you will be memorializing our General Assembly to dare to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge and to pass the civil rights legislation of our time. The vote you cast will in turn enshrine you as true advocates for the most eloquent civil and human rights document ever divined on this earth, the Constitution of the United States of America, and more specifically, the 14th Amendment. For this, I applaud you, and I hope you will vote in favor of the legislation. Thank you very much for your kindness.
Thank you, Anthony.
My name is Lisa Iwan, and I've been a resident of South Kingstown for 29 years. My partner, Peg Lawrence, appeared before you for many, many years. And we got together in 1980, which was the first year that Ronald Reagan was elected. And the first thing he did was decimate the Legal Services Corporation in the United States. And Peg and I both wanted to be Legal Services Corporation lawyers. So we decided, after we couldn't get jobs with Rhode Island Legal Services, to open up a practice in South Kingstown where we demonstrated our commitment to serving the community for 30 years. And when Peg passed away last year, she had given, we always joked about the fact that she earned the money for the law firm and I spent it. She did real estate. She did more affordable housing law in the state of Rhode Island than any other lawyer. But she also did a great deal of board work. We both did. To Domestic Violence Resource Center, Welcome House, Habitat for Humanity, South Shore Mental Health Services. I could go on and on about the board work that we did. And we have also won every award that you can win from the Rhode Island Bar Association for pro bono work. And we're the only law firm in New England, a two-person law firm, to win a very coveted ABA award called the Pro Bono Publico Award that law firms, huge law firms, compete to get because it draws clients who give them lots of money. But in 2006, Peg and I went to Massachusetts and got married for the same reasons that you get married, because we loved each other. When I say that we met in 1980 and it was love at first sight, I know it sounds corny and tacky, but it was true. And we took care of each other. We ran a business here in South Kingstown and gave to our community in ways that a lot of people don't give. And I've testified for 28 years at the State House for marriage equality and basic civil rights. And what I'm asking you to do today is to send a message. And I've been gerrymandered outside of Sue Sosnowski's district. She's one of the sponsors of the bill. And I'm now in Representative Algier's district. And I've spoken with him on the phone on a couple of occasions. And he has not given me a commitment as to what position he's taking. So I urge you to please send a message from South Kingstown to my senator, Dennis Algier, that this is something that's the right thing to do, and to end discrimination, to end unfairness is really what it's all about. After Peg died, I learned that there were, well, I knew before, that there's 1,600 some federal rights to which I'm not eligible. There's 466 rights, state rights, to which I'm not eligible. And even though Peg and I were legally married in the state of Rhode Island after she died, I was shocked to learn that although I was listed as her spouse on the death certificate issued by the Division of Vital Statistics, the Division of Taxation was not going to let me claim the marital deduction. And even though we'd been married, well, together for 32 years and married, legally married in the state of Massachusetts, because of who we are and our connections of practicing law for so long in the state of Rhode Island, I was able to change the law in the state of Rhode Island within 6 months. And now, every person who's legally married outside of the state of Rhode Island or civilly unionized can claim the marital deduction, which happened with lightning speed 6 months after Peg died. But I know that you remember Peg, and I hope that you'll send the right message to the Senate. Thank you.
Thanks, Lise.
Thank you, Liz.
Hello, I'm Nancy Rose, 47 Linden Drive, Kingston, Rhode Island. I applaud you on taking this stand this evening. I urge you to pass this resolution. I'm speaking tonight as the president of the congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of South County, which affirms and protects the inherent dignity and worth of every person. And because the state of Rhode Island does not recognize same-sex marriage, my partner and I had to go to Massachusetts, where our minister from our congregation right down the road was not able to perform the sacred ceremony. So my own congregation, which elected me to be president, could not join in this joyous and exciting celebration of the life commitment my partner and I have made to each other. I am proud to live in this part of the state where my elected representatives have taken this stand, and I urge you to let those people in Providence know that we really do care about civil rights and equal treatment of our citizens in South County. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Hello, my name is Al Lott from Kingston. I'm here to support this resolution, and I'm so happy that South Kingstown is doing this. In January, I sent a 4-page memorandum statement to Governor Chafee about same-sex marriage in Rhode Island, supporting it, and why I support it. I will spare you the 4 pages, but I've underlined a couple statements that are related to what other governments on the East Coast have done with regard to same-sex marriage. Essentially, same-sex marriage will provide same-sex couples with public validation of their life together with one another and support the union and protect children of that union. My first quote from a governor is from the new marriage law in Maryland. Governor Martin O'Malley said this, that their same-sex marriage law will, quote, honor the human dignity of families, whether the parents are gay or straight. It is not right, it is not just that children of gay couples should have lesser protections than children of other families in the state. Going to 2 governors in New England, first, Governor Lynch in New Hampshire said of his state's same-sex marriage law, we are standing up for the liberties of same-sex couples by making clear that they receive the same rights, responsibilities, and respect under New Hampshire law. And the former governor of Maine said this about the Maine law, which has an interesting history, but there is a Maine law, same-sex marriage law. What did he say? Okay, that their law, and this is important, I think, for Rhode Island, their law reaffirms the separation of church and state and, quote, guarantees that Maine citizens will be treated equally under Maine's civil liberties, civil marriage laws, and that is the responsibility of government. And I'm so happy that the South Kingstown group is taking this responsibility too. This will be a great move and get the news up to Providence fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
I hope your actions and those of some more people who have become more enlightened will mean that I don't have to read this or send this to anyone else again. The date has been changed on it innumerable times. It's not too long, though.
Could you just state your name, please?
Kathy Gorman.
Thanks, Kath.
Acorn Court in Wakefield. I'm 70 years old, a straight mother of a gay son, niece of a gay uncle, and friend of several gay couples. I view the plea for same-sex couples' equal rights from eyes which remember when, in law, women were merely the property of their fathers or husbands, ineligible for mortgages and credit cards without male co-signers, and too often abused without legal recourse. I also recall when pregnant women, I was one of them, had to quit teaching in public schools. Yes, you remember also, right? We women were unequal citizens. Of course, the law's past unequal treatment of black men and women is well documented. So here we are, more than 200 years since our nation's promising beginning, still trying to get equal rights for all citizens. It's time to legally ensure that all citizens wishing the rights and privileges of civil marriage are entitled to them. Why should my son be denied the marital securities his sisters and mother can easily obtain, despite their willingness or unwillingness, or inability any longer, to procreate? My son and others should not have to suffer the denial of rights my uncle endured on the dying and eventual death of his long-term partner. Thank you for your resolution. I hope it makes a difference.
Thank you, Kathy. We're going to let Bobby go, and then we'll, okay.
Hello, my name is Rita Good. I live on North Road in Peacedale. And I applaud you hopefully supporting this resolution. I've been with my partner, Joanne, for 31 years. I was married before to a man, had 4 children, and together Joanne and I now have 6 grandchildren. Many years ago, I think my granddaughter was 6 years old, and she said to Joanne, she said, "Did you know that Grandma used to be married?" And Joanne said, "Yes, I knew that." And then Caitlin said to me, "Grandma, do you think you'll ever get married again?" And I said, "Well, I already am married to to Joanne." Now, we are not legally married in Massachusetts, but I said we're married because we are. My granddaughter, who was 6, said, "Girls can't get married." And I said, "Well, yes, they can," whatever I said. Then she said, "Well, who wore the dress?" And I said, "Well, no, neither of us." But anyway, I want this also for my grandchildren, to know that their grandparents are married, and not that we are illegal or it is wrong or it is immoral. My granddaughter is now 15, and she may be a lesbian. And I want her to feel she has choices, that she can do what she wants and love whom she wants legally, not just civilly on their own in a corner somewhere. So I'm really hoping that for my children who are also ashamed of my relationship with Joanne in the beginning and are now very proud of me, I also do this on behalf of my children as well as our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita.
I can't pass this up, as you probably well know. Not being here for weeks and weeks, I've chosen the best, a very great meeting to come to. And first of all, not to diminish what just happened in any way, I'm 100% in support of these wonderful people that have just spoken. And it's what I like to hear. It almost makes me want to cry. But what I am disappointed in is that this meeting is not being televised right now, live in Rhode Island, because these people have a right to come to a town council meeting and live, real time. And I don't know why it doesn't make a difference to too many people, but I know when I don't go to Narragansett, if I want to, I can turn the TV on and I can listen to it. And believe me, if I start hearing some stuff, I'll run and jump in my car and run over there. And I've done that once or twice for this meeting. I think the people, I don't know why South Kingstown, I do know why. But I didn't want to do this. I'm sorry I'm doing this. I don't want to diminish what just happened, because what just happened is the real thing. And I want the real thing to be shared by the people, because that's what a democracy is. And I've said it more than once to you, and I'm going to keep saying it. If I can stay awake, get here, because I want to get here. Because this is not right. You've got the money, you got more money than Narragansett. There's no reason why this meeting is not televised. I know the one reason, and I'm going to say it because I'm saying whatever I want to from now on. I've made up my mind on that. Narragansett is a different town. In Narragansett, there's a lot more controversy. In Narragansett, they don't know how to elect a town manager. And they don't have a town manager. Now, they've got somebody coming, I don't know how he's going to, I don't know the guy, so I can't say much about it. They fired a good one just recently, though. The town council likes to run the town, and they like to run the town manager. Over here, the town manager runs the town, and you're advised by the town manager, and you oversee the town manager. That's the difference between the two towns in my mind. But maybe they'll figure it out. But one thing about Narragansett is they have open forum. They have it every meeting. And this is the kind of thing that you, as town council people, it's the kind of thing that I like to see. You've come up with a resolution, you're going to submit it, it's a controversial issue, you've taken a stand, and you stand behind what you say. That's what you need to do. There's so much going on right now. What is going on in the last few months since I haven't been here? We've seen little kids slaughtered in schools. We've seen people slaughtered now just a couple of days ago in Boston. There are some issues out there. You need to take a stand, whatever it is. And believe me, then you'll get people coming out and talking and communicating with you as a council. That doesn't make any difference to me how good I want the town to be run well, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there's a lot more in this world than just running the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Good evening. Maureen Martin, 3646 Commodore Perry Highway, but don't try to find my house with GPS because you can't do that. No, we'll have to talk about who I need to talk to about that. I can't, a lot of what I would have to say about this has already been said, particularly about the workers' rights. As a union representative, I've spoken numerous times in front of both the House and the Senate committees. But one of the things that I'd like that hasn't been said tonight, and that I oftentimes bring up because I hail from the teachers' union, that we teach kids in school that everybody is the same and you can't treat people differently and not to bully, and that everybody deserves respect. And yet, in this particular case, I usually like to say kids aren't stupid, and they understand that when they go out into the real world, that people will be treated differently. And this is a prime example of how people are bullied and treated differently. And I applaud you, Carol, for bringing this up, and Paul for co-sponsoring this resolution. And I hope you do pass it, and I think it shows great respect for the people who live and work here in South Kingstown that you've shown towards them. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Hi, my name is Terry Simpson. I live in Kingstown. And I just want to say that I applaud you for taking this action. I think it's a very simple and fundamental issue of people's fundamental rights and civil rights. It's embarrassing, I think, for all of us that it is taking this long to get to this position. I remain fearful that the legislature won't act positively on this, so I applaud you for taking this action, and I won't speak much longer because I want you to get the paper signed and get it out of here and get it up to the State House so that it'll be there to be counted for tomorrow. So my hat's off to you. Congratulations. Please pass it.
Thank you, Terry. Other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Did we make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to support the resolution in support of the Senate Bill 2013 S0038 and House Bill 2013 H5015 relating to domestic relations and persons eligible to marry. And I urge passing of this.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to say thank you all for coming, and the time has come for this. I mean, it's way overdue, and it's only fair, and we're talking about basic, fundamental rights, as all of you have pointed out, and everyone deserves the happiness or unhappiness that comes with marriage. At least the right to decide, and to have that freedom and the right to exercise your choices. And hopefully this will pass.
Thank you. Any other comments? Jim?
Yeah, thanks to Carol and Paul. Great resolution, timely. Hopefully this will pass unanimously tonight so we can get this thing up to the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. And what's amazing about all this, the obvious inequality here, and just listening to what Lee Saiwan said about the hundreds and hundreds of uphill battles that not being recognized as married, or what she's had to go through, just incredible what everyone has to go through. I find it amazing. And Mr. DeLuca brought up, too, what cowardice to put this off into a referendum a year from November. Absolutely cowardice if that's the way it goes up at the Senate. I think there's great momentum out here now. I know we've got a close vote on this tomorrow, and I certainly hope that people wise up and realize that this is simply basic civil rights, which needs to be moved forward on and passed.
Thank you, Jim. Other comments here at the table?
I just want to say I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's wonderful to see this amount of people here, but I also have to speak to the dedication, determination, and the prowess that you have to bring forward your voices about something that is truly believed in and needs to be recognized by the state. So I thank you all for coming out tonight. It means an awful lot to us as the council, and I'm sure, to the rest of the people in the state who have worked really hard or want to work hard for this plight. Thank you.
And with all of that said, I really, from the bottom of our heart, this town council really appreciates letting your voices be heard, and listening to the emotion in your voices and the love that you have for one another. So hopefully there'll be a positive result with the Senate tomorrow, and we'll get it out of committee and then move it to a positive vote. So with that said, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. And we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. Good luck.
She take it up. I want to take it up.
Next item on the agenda is comments from interested citizens. So I'm going to open the microphone if there's any other comments. Mr. Traeger.
I missed you, you know. I'm glad you're back. I really did miss you.
I just want to let you know that we're all coming skiing next winter.
I'm making up for lost time, that's all. Just so happened that I've probably said almost everything I'd wanted to say. I don't know, this is, I hope you guys are going to really give it a little consideration on getting this thing on where it belongs. You know, it's part of the American way, you know. And why diminish it? I don't understand. I don't understand the thinking behind it. If you can explain it to me, I'd love to hear it. I mean, explain to me, and I don't want to hear money. I understand he has money on his mind, and that's good that he has money on his mind. But I have people on my mind. I have issues on my mind and things that are going on. And I'm not the greatest, I'm not an intellectual, I'm not a great reader. Boy, you don't have to be much anymore to just turn C-SPAN on and listen to the people around the country talking. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on all around the world, never mind about just here in South Kingstown. I hope you'll discover a way to fight for broadcasting this meeting. I don't know if I could ask for much more than that right now.
I am going to ask Steve if you could run through, unless you want me to do it, with the budget and then the fighting for airtime with the live television.
The money was not included in the budget for the next year. The reason was it was a $21,000 cost in the first year and approximately $11,000 each year thereafter. We would have access to the second and the fourth Mondays or fourth weeks. So there'd be 2 weeks of the month that the town would have direct access for the television. The other 2 weeks would be Narragansett's weeks, first and third. So what the council was looking at is that the probability of presenting, on average, possibly 2 meetings a month over a 12-month period at a cost of $21,000. And the council felt that that was too much money for that program. You may disagree with it, but that was the decision that was made.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that we should fight for free time on TV for this type of thing. What are we doing? This is ridiculous. This should be on, it should be on Channel 28
and it should be free. Now, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, I don't know, but I think that's, it shouldn't. I can understand the financial point of view, 100%, believe me, probably more than you do. Believe me, I don't make what you make. I know how important it is. The point is that it is something that should be done for the public, and the council shouldn't just, oh, that's the way it is. Hey, there's a million things in the world that we can say that. Look at parking was brought up. That's the way it is. Look at everywhere it's got parking problems. I don't know of a place in the summertime. We even got parking problems down in Jerusalem now, and the summer hasn't even started. We got the Oyster Bar now. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to fight.
You asked for an explanation. I'm trying to give it.
Well, that explanation doesn't work with me. It's a good explanation, but
yeah, but there's more.
I listened to a lawyer last week at Narragansett speak for 30 or 40 minutes. A bunch of gobbledygook. And I used an analogy. I said, you know what it reminded me of? A fisherman out there, when you throw a line out and then it gets all snarled up and you look at that mess and you figure, how can I untangle all that? That's a method of, give me common sense. That's all I'm asking.
The last comment I wanted to make is that we did have at one time free public access. That was taken away when the Public Utilities Commission took away the monopoly that was in place with what Cox was. Once the programs were required and there was multiple cable providers in the state, they changed the rules and regulations because they weren't going to have but one facility located in each of the regions. There was also taken away the rights to have free access. So at this point, each of the communities that would have access to the television would have to pay for that access. And I'd also suggest to you that if your message were heard by Charleston, your message were heard by Richmond, Exeter, and any of the other communities within our region, then the number of times that we would have access to the television as a community would also be limited. So today, Narragansett has first and third. Tomorrow, South Kingstown would have second and fourth. If Charleston were going to have access, we would then have to split the weeks. If any of the other communities that are under that same district, you would split the weeks. We didn't see that as a viable investment for the community.
And just, I also wanted to add that there was an additional $288,000 that we had to go back into the budget. We actually did have Steve Alford put it in the budget this year, and during our budget deliberations, we found out there was a shortage coming from the state of additional $288,000. We had used $800,000 for undesignated fund balance, and we increased that to $1 million. And then there were also some human service agencies that we gave a little more money to, like the Welcome House. There was Downtown Merchants Association. There were probably about another $6,000 that we gave to some agencies that requested it. So juggling many balls, we did take into consideration all of what you have brought forward to the table, Bobby. But yeah, we did listen. And I'm just gonna throw in, we also didn't approve that because we thought you weren't going to come to any more meetings.
I missed you.
We all miss you.
I didn't even know you before I came
So
on
we're
the
glad
council,
you're
but
here.
I missed you.
But we did. We deliberated really hard, and it was actually in print in front of us in the budget. And when it came to push to shove, with the shortage of money from the state and giving some of you human service agencies some more money, we did end up taking it out.
Can I say one more thing?
Please do.
I hate to do this, but I mean, you guys don't mind, do you? It's just a little extra time. I realize also, and believe me, don't think I don't go through guilt trips, that this is my responsibility as a citizen too, to communicate with the state of Rhode Island about something like this. I'm not gonna, the monkey's on my back too. I'm not, I mean, I'd love to have you take it all, believe me, but I mean, the monkey's on my back too. I have a responsibility to get that for you, so you don't have to worry about the money.
Thank you. Other comments from interested citizens? I just want to comment on the benefit with the police department. That was at the Elks, I believe it was Saturday night. It was just eloquent and a real tribute to our police officers in town and around the the whole area here. So it's delightful. Any other comments or events that town council went to? I know there's some dates coming up. I just want to briefly mention tomorrow. I know Vin will probably want to mention it, but we have the Matunic Village Study tomorrow night at Matunic Elementary School starting at 7. So hopefully all of those residents in the Matunic area will fill that cafetorium. Okay. Thank you. Town Manager's report.
I yield the floor to Mr. Traeger.
Oh, you made a mistake.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Town Solicitor, Steve?
No, he yielded, and I can't say anything to top anything that's happened this evening, so I'll yield back to the council.
Oh. And I believe it moves us to appointments, and we have a few.
All right. I move that we appoint Christopher Massier, to reappoint Christopher Massier to the Economic Development Committee. His term expired in March of 2013. He would be reappointed for 3 years, which will take him to March 2016.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, I move that we reappoint Ken Kennerson to the Planning Board. His term expires in May of 2013, and that his term would go until May of 2016.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Are we doing 138?
Do we want to move forward with 138 or wait?
Oh, 138.
Yeah, why don't we wait until May?
Okay.
Zoning Board of Review, Doug Bates.
Oh, I also move that we appoint Doug Bates, reappoint Doug Bates to the Zoning Board of Review. His term expired in March of 2013. He would serve for 3 years, which would be March of 2016.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And Meg?
Yes, I move that we look at the trustees for the South Kingstown School Fund for the appointment of Michael McEntee, whose term did expire, and he's looking for continuance on that board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second.
And I am recusing myself because I am related to the subject. The subject of this motion.
The subject of this appointment, that's right.
All right, I'm married to Mike McEntee, so I'm stepping back and recusing myself. If that isn't full disclosure, I don't know what is.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries 4-0-0 with one recusal. Next item on the agenda is new business item C. A resolution authorizing an award of bid to Mara Meal Services, P.O. Box 69, East Greenwich, Rhode Island, for adult day center catering services in accordance with all bid specifications at the unit price bid in an amount not to exceed $19,050, including $1,500 contingency, for 1 year term commencing May 1st, 2013, with the option to extend the contract for for an additional 2 years, and as further described in memorandum from the Director of Leisure Services to the Town Manager dated April 11, 2013, and entitled Recommendation for Bid Award, Adult Day Services Catering Bid Reference, SK 0018RD. Steve.
West Bay Community Action Program has provided the meals for the adult daycare program since its inception. They can no longer provide that service. Terry has gone out to bid. We received one bid. It's from Mara Food Meal Services. The contract will run over a 3-year period between May of 2013 and April 30th of 2016. Recommend council approve as presented.
Thank you, Steve. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second?
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anybody have anything for the good of the order before we adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.